We are waiting for the opposition. So is everyone here?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we start. I think we can start. So good evening, everyone. I welcome everyone standing here today to the Inter-Faculty Debate Competition on the topic. I am Muhammad Haris Husni, and I will be acting as your moderator for today's debate session. Before we start today's debate, I would like to introduce our esteemed judge who will evaluate the performance of today's debaters. They are Mr. Anis as a judge. Now we have met our judge. Let me introduce our debate teams who will be competing today. Let's welcome the government and the opposition team. The government team will be supporting today's motion while the opposition team will be rejecting the motion given.
Excuse me, moderator.
Hmm?
For today's debate, there are three judges, which is Mr. Anis, Aimi Iskandar, and me, Selina.
Oh, so sorry. So yeah, we got three judges for today. So the government team consists of, wait, let me change this. Consists of Hanif as the Prime Minister, and then we got Raymond and Anbar. So for the opposition, we got Amira, and then Adam as the second speaker, and lastly we got Sri. So I believe that everyone is here. Okay. So the motion for today is this House supports the use of violate instead of tissue papers. So without further ado, the Prime Minister, the government can start. Wait, let me show the time. Let me present first. Can you guys see it?
Yeah, we can see.
So the Prime Minister Hanif can start the debate.
First of all, let me, am I audible? No, can you?
Not too clear.
What about now? Is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay. I shall start my speech in 3, 2, 1. All right, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished judge and respected opponents, we stand before you today to affirm the motion that this House supports the use of bidet instead of tissue papers. The stand coming from us, the government, is simple. In a world where environmental conservation is important, personal hygiene is essential. We advocate for a shift from traditional tissue papers to the usage of bidets. Now, in this argument, I will present the status quo, the mechanisms, and the multitude of benefits that come with this. So let's embrace bidets as it's an eco-friendly and a more hygienic alternative to tissue paper. We strongly believe that today's motion must stand simply because the rise of technology is inevitable, and with that comes the debate and comes the technology of the day. Now, before proceeding any further, let me introduce our words for the day. I, as the first speaker of the document, will present our definitions and present my first contention, which is the economy aspect of it. My second speaker will finally put forward two watertight contention, which are environment and improved hygiene. My third speaker will finally do what he does best to explain about all the points put forth by the opposition and show you by way of sound reasoning that our case is indisputable and must fall. Now, before proceeding any further, let me move on to my definitions. First of all, what do we mean by bidet? Bidets are a bathroom fixture used especially for bathing the external genital and anal area. Now, what are toilet papers? Toilet papers are a thin absorbent tissue paper product which are commonly used as personal hygiene after excreting our waste or urinating. Despite its widespread use, toilet paper possesses a risk of human health. Manufactured from wood pulp or recycled paper, toilet paper often contains chemicals and leaching during the production of it, which can lead to sensitive skin and lead to discomfort, rashes, and allergic action. Allergic allergies. Now, currently, the widespread, moving on to my status quo, currently, the widespread of usage of toilet papers for personal hygiene contributes significantly to deforestation and water pollution, waste pollution, and in many regions, tissue papers are not sustainable, leading to a depletion of natural resources and environmental degradation. Moreover, manufacturing process of tissue papers often include harmful chemicals, further worsening the situation of the environmental impact. So, it is our duty as a government to implement several changes to the status quo. And as the government sees beyond, we will be acting upon the following mechanisms for today's debate, which are bidet installation. Our proposed mechanisms involve the widespread installation of bidet systems in many places, such as households, public restrooms, and commercial spaces. Bidets are water-based systems that provide effective and hygienic cleansing of the toilet. They come in a variety of types. They are handheld, bidet seats, and they are built into the toilets. And by doing all this, we can reduce deforestation. By reducing the demand of tissue paper, installation of bidets contributes tremendously to the reduction of deforestation. Trees are essential for maintaining ecological balance. So by doing this, we are preserving them and the natural habitats are protected. The reduction in deforestation helps mitigate the climate change and preserve biodiversity. Now with that said out of the way, let me move on to my points. First of all, using bidets helps. Yes, please go for it.
Yeah, thank you, Government Prime Minister, for allowing me to POI. When you said about ecological balance, when we having disturbance, there'll be a imbalance in ecological balance. Do you realize that all these plantations and these farms actually they do not come directly from the forest, but they have their own plantations. These trees, when they make for tissue papers, and all these minerals made for bidet is a metal which is coming directly from leaching processes.
Right, I understand what you mean. But I would explain this to my point. Right. So how does today's prevent deforestation? Right? First of all, today's reduce the significant demand for toilet paper. This reduction in consumption directly translates to lower costs for individuals, households, and businesses. So, like, they do have their own plantation, but look at how much water they were wasting. Needed to grow and process these tissue papers. That was not the argument. Bidets are more efficient than production tissue paper. The water used in bidet cleaning is comparatively minimal compared to the water required for manufacturing tissue papers. Moreover, bidet technology has advanced considerably, leading to the development of low flow, high efficient, and high efficient bidet models. These modern bidets use targeted system streams of water which can be easily adjusted and are designed to conserve water and ensure effective cleansing. By promoting the use of bidets, we contribute to the global efforts of conserving water resources, especially in regions facing water scarcity. Now, cost effectiveness. How does this ease one's money? Right. The savings made over months and years of purchasing toilet paper adds up significantly when compared to buying one single bidet, which can be used for a lifetime, with of course proper manufacturing, leading to a more financially managed individuals and families, which can lead to significant cost savings in the long run. Right. With all that said, using a bidet is like upgrading from basic flip phone to a state-of-the-art smartphone, such as the application right now. It's a modern, efficient, and more effective way to cleanse, leaving you more refreshed and revitalized. Just like how smartphones revolutionized our communication and making us smarter, faster, more convenient. With all that said, this house firmly supports the use of bidets as a superior and eco-friendly alternative, paving the way for a greener and more sustainable future. And with all that said, I move to propose. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech. Now we would like to hear from the leader of the opposition.
Wait a second. Moderator, can you use stopwatch instead of timer?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Make sure to remind 1 minute past the UI open and minute past UI close.
Okay, you can start.
All right, can you guys hear me? Am I audible? Testing. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. So I will start in 3, 2, 1. At the end of the day, the bidet versus toilet paper debate is only relevant in parts of the world where safe sanitary systems are in place. So the conversation we are having right now is pretty privileged. Assalamualaikum and a very good day. I bid to the wise judges, my loyal teammate Adam and Sri, fellow government side, and everybody in this room. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this debate. Welcome from this side of the house where I, Amira, from the debate rates team, as the leader of opposition today, strongly oppose the motion for today, which is this house supports the use of bidets instead of tissue papers because, well, both options have their merits, ladies and gentlemen. It is important to note that choosing between a bidet or toilet paper is, after all, a matter of personal preference. Some people may prefer the traditional use of toilet paper for various reasons, including familiarity, convenience, or the absence of bidet facilities. Ultimately, the decision should be based on individual comfort and needs, and deciding between A bidet and sustainable toilet paper is almost like choosing between oat milk and almond milk, ladies and gentlemen. Both are the same. Both have their pros and cons, ladies and gentlemen. So before I continue with my speech, let me talk about the structure of our case as follow. I, as the first speaker, will talk about the basically on how we get this toilet paper, and basically touch on humans, uh, what they choose want to have, and also their hygienes. And our second speaker, Adam, will elaborate more on the wastewater treatment, and our third speaker, Sri, will do on the rebuttals. Ladies and gentlemen, ever since toilet paper became a luxury good for a hot pandemic moment, it feels like ads for simple, affordable, and sometimes chic bidets have flooded our news feeds. So the aesthetically pleasing body washing basins comes with claims of being cleaner, better for the environment, and easier on the wallet over time. But as of today, we are still out on how necessary bidets are for cleaning every last bacterial cell of your backside. But for folks with especially certain health conditions, bidets ain't the answer for them. But for more of the general population, the sustainability aspect of spritzing after a poo is likely the real draw, and there are still a lot of unanswered questions in that department too. Ladies and gentlemen, assuming you're already only flushing the three P's, which is pee, poo, and paper, down the toilet, you may be considering joining the spray side, basically the bidets. And generally speaking, the amount of water and energy that goes into making paper products is likely more than the resources that go into running a bidet for a moment. That's what you all thought. Well, where you live and what the water situation there is important, ladies and gentlemen. Some places the water supply ain't going good, so a bidet is it isn't something if water availability isn't easy there. So if you're stuck with water restrictions, it's probably wiser to stick to toilet paper. And additionally, if you want to switch to bidet, you need to come to terms with a few other changes that will come along with that switch. So for folks that aren't comfortable with bidet, whether it be health reason or water shortage that's keeping your fancy pooing dreams at bay, you aren't necessarily cursed with a life of environmentally detrimental bathroom trips. Ladies and gentlemen, as we know right now, give me 1 minute. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know right now, there are so many companies right now that make their products. 1 second, please. There are so many companies right now that make their products, toilet paper from bamboo, and give a chunk of their earnings to creating sustainable sanitary systems that need them, which is a climate and equity issues in and of itself. So if you want to talk about tissues, like if you take tissues, you're chopping of trees everywhere, which is like what the Prime Minister said. Ladies and gentlemen, not everywhere. Before this, a POI has been given by the Whip Minister himself. He told us clearly, like, not all the trees are being chopped everywhere. They literally have already provided their own farm for their own products. And alhamdulillah, as of late, people around the world have already started conserving and preserving places for our beautiful trees. And ladies and gentlemen, there has been so many alternatives that for tissue papers, ladies and gentlemen. We are not just using trees, we're using bamboo toilet papers. There's even unbleached toilet paper, and basically right now, even toilet papers have their own eco-friendly package, non-plastic materials, but similar to biodegradable products. Biodegradable tissues exist too, ladies and gentlemen. So there's no need explanation for this. The word biodegradable is clearly there. Okay, POI.
You said water is a need in the solution, right?
Speak clearly, I
Don't
cannot
think,
hear you.
But don't you think a lot of these waters are going into the production of the tissue papers in your farms?
So you're talking about bits of tissue papers entering our organs? I'm sorry, I cannot hear you. You're not clearly.
Right. The production of tissue papers requires water, right? And you said regions with scarce water are running out of water, right? But don't you think the reason for this is because a ton of water is needed to for the production of toilet paper trees which are planted by
Sir, you are taking my time too much. I'll be proceeding then. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a good reminder of one of the golden rules of bidet ownership. Okay, you need to regularly clean it. If you have a bidet, you need to regularly clean it. So, you're talking about hygiene. Well, bidet's not really hygienic because you need to clearly clean it. And some people are not that, well, are done that diligent in cleaning it. In many cases, running a damp cloth over nozzle will suffice. But then again, bacteria is still there. So, if you properly maintain it as far as cleaning or upkeep, then it could be just as hygienic, if not more, than toilet paper. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just as hygienic as toilet paper then. So while bidets can reduce toilet paper consumption, Some bidet models use electricity and warm water, which can also have environmental impact in terms of energy use. Ladies and gentlemen, usage of water in tissue paper production is much lower compared to wastewater treatment. So if you're going to talk about the factories, the production of tissue papers affect the environments, well, so does the bidet, ladies and gentlemen. If you think about it clearly, when you want to make tissue papers, you do not need to consume too much dishes of coal or anything. In fact, you're using more metal, more dangerous smoke will come to the environment. So both have pros and cons, ladies and gentlemen. So as I mentioned before, so when it comes to the bidet versus the toilet paper, my advice is whatever's most comfortable, go with that. Thankfully, there are an assortment of solutions out there, including ways to use less water and reuse our waste in a way that can act as fertilizer or compost. But there are limits. So while low flow toilets are becoming more mainstream, you're still more likely to see a composting toilet out in a park than in a city. So, ladies and gentlemen, so while it is fine to debate the pros and cons of toilet papers versus bidets, it is also important to look beyond your bathroom and research ways for your neighborhood and city to transition to a more sustainable sanitation system. Also, remember that just like climate change, this is a global issue. So, with that, I am going to reinstate our stance, which is both have their own merits, and that is why today's motion should be regretted. I rest my case.
Thank you for the wise speech. Now let's hear from the Deputy Prime Minister. You have 7 minutes to present your case.
Am I audible? Okay. A good day to Mr. Chair, worthy members of the opposition and members of the floor. While I, as the Deputy Prime Minister from the government, would like to rebut all of the irrelevant points and giving my second and third points. So before I proceed to my point, I would like to rebut the points given by the opposition. Well, just now, the leader of opposition did mention that there are not all trees chopping down just to produce the tissue paper, right? But do you think that there are still trees that is chopping down to produce the tissue paper, right? So at the time, you may ask how many trees, right? Now I give you a statistic here. The tissue are made from virgin fiber, fresh cut, which is the fresh cut trees, as they produce softest and most absorbent tissue. This means to supply tissue industry approximately 27,000 trees cut down each day. Okay, now I would like to proceed to another rebuttals, which is just now the whip speaker from the opposition did mention that the bidet is mainly is made up of the minerals like metals, right? So actually, bidet mainly made out of porcelain and ceramic, and not mineral metals like what the opposition whip speaker said. And I would like to proceed to my point first with the keywords environment. When we are using the bidet, we reduce the deforestation that will be done because of the production of the tissue. As what I already told before, that we will approximately cut down 27,000 trees each day just to supply the tissue industry. And also, when there are deforestation occur, it will cause a habitat loss, and the oxygen content in our world will become lesser and lesser. And According to a study in 2019, global tissue consumption reached 40 million tons, and consumption has increased from 27 million tons in 2007 and be forecasted to be 52 million tons by 2027. So can you imagine when the usage of the toilets paper are increasing and increasing, and when we are producing these toilet papers, the trees are cutting down, and these will lead to a very big impact to our environment. And other than that, using of the toilet paper will also lead to a water pollution. This is because the chlorine that used to bleach the toilet papers, and we use the toilet papers and we throw it into the toilet bowls, and it will cause a water pollution. Now I will move to my second point, which is about the hygiene. Well, bidets reduce the bacteria spread wiping with toilet papers, especially after wiping your private area or genital area, and these can be problematic as all kinds of bacteria in feces, coli, salmonella, clostridium can be brought to other areas of the body through the wiping trajectory with unintended contact areas. And also, bidet allow for hands-free cleaning of genitals and anus after toiletry and intimacy. Water is used to thoroughly clean skin surfaces and cervixes rather than wiping, which lead to spread of fecal matter and bacteria to other parts of the body. And by using the water, it will reduce the infections. And now, just now, my prime minister also told you that some of the people, they told you that there are people that experiencing discomfort when using the toilet paper. Now I tell you why. It is because when you repeatedly wipe with the paper tissue, the coarse fibers in the tissue can irritate you down there and even create little microscopic cuts. While not as deep as actual paper cuts, these micro cuts disrupt the surface of the skin just enough to cause irritation and discomfort. This is what I'm saying myself, but this is what I'm getting online by the person Levy, which is from the Yahoo website. And I would like to give you an analogy. Imagine you are eating food using your hand, and after you finish the food, your hand is oily and your hand is dirty, right? For example, you are eating curry, right? So your hand have the curry stain. And imagine you just use the toilet paper to just clean it, and then you go to the class and continue holding the pens and the papers to write. Do you think this is enough hygienic, and do you think this is enough for you to be comfortable when you are in the class with the oily hand and the pens that is also oily when you contact with the pen? And also, I would like to let you know, even the ancestor before, they do not have the invention of the tissue. They do not use tissue paper, and they do not use the grass even to wipe themselves after they go to the loo. Or okay, even I would like to highlight here, after even the ancestors use water, and now we have an advanced education. Why don't we use the water paper? Sorry, and now we, with an advanced education, why don't we use water or the bidet? Okay, now I would like to reaffirm the motion of the day, which is this House supports the use of bidet instead of the tissue paper, and we as the government strongly agree with this motion, and this motion should only stand, and only stand. Thank you.
Thank you for the thoughtful speech. Now we will hear the speech of the Deputy Leader of the Opposition. You have 7 minutes to present your case.
Hello, am I audible? Right, good. I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, judges, and our moderators in this room today. So I stand before you as the second speaker, with my job being to rebut both the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister, and to reaffirm our points which the Leader of Opposition have presented. So let's first and foremost rebut all the points that have been given by the Prime Minister and also the Deputy Prime Minister. So when we think about what the Prime Minister has stated before in his stance, which is technology is inevitable, correct me if I'm wrong. But when it comes to your stance, don't you realize that all this tissue papers production already have taken advantage of those technology as well? Like what my leader of opposition has already stated with her alternatives, such as the bamboo produced tissue papers and also a lot of recyclable that is making use of those technologies, Prime Minister. And also, hold on for a second. When my whip minister, of the third speaker of my side stated the POI to the Prime Minister, which is the production is minimal compared to the tissue. Yes, we have our facts as well, like what the leader of opposition has stated. And you also asked our leader of opposition about the water use in production. And let's think about this. They have their own plantation. That means they have their own cycle of production. They have their own methods to make use of their resources and to make sure they make it as efficient as possible. Does that mean it means resources, and also when they make use of those waters and they treat that waters, it could possibly go to the trees to water down the trees to make sure that all the resources are being used efficiently. So moving on to the Deputy Prime Minister, when you see that our points are irrelevant, well, we're talking about this motion whether yours is better or ours. Either the bidets are better than the tissue papers. Well, we are talking about how both of them has their own rights and wrongs, which means that our points and your points are not irrelevant whatsoever, ladies and gentlemen. And when we talk about the trees that being cut down from all these tissue papers, like I mentioned, and like what the leader of opposition already mentioned, but the alternatives, the recyclable, the 3R, which is reduce, reuse, recycle. We use those methods. People who use tissues, they are aware of them. And when it comes to when you mentioned about the habitat, the plantation exists. That's what the plantation is all about. They make sure they grow the trees after they produce the tissue paper. And also, okay, when you talk about the water pollution, well, that is true. I am aware about the water pollution that is going to happen when people just flush down the dirty toilet papers into the drain. But if there's an alternative where there's a world where there's people who throw out the tissue papers into the trash can instead. So yeah, POI, please.
So you're mainly talking about recyclable tissue papers which are made from bamboo and etc. Can you recycle a tissue paper where you already used it to wipe your poo stain or something? Can you recycle that when it has biological waste? You clearly can't. So how can recyclable tissue papers exist in the use of toilet? Thank you.
Well, kinds of technology exists. That's where that counts. Technology is where it matters. You use those dirty or already stained tissue papers, and then you recycle. That's the whole point of recycled materials. That's where those technologies are being used, ladies and gentlemen. So let's go on to my okay. Before I touch on my own points, let's talk about the analogy that the Deputy Prime Minister stated about the hygiene. Well, yes, tissue paper. They use those tissue papers to wipe their own rear end, and most of the people wash their own hands. It's not like they just left it like that. And also, it's a tissue paper. They will use tissue papers to clean their own hands afterwards, right? They would not just wipe their own rear end and then just left it like that. That's not common sense, ladies and gentlemen.
No,
so let's go to my own point, which is, hold on for a second.
Okay.
Let's go to my point, which is to examine the environmental consequences of the wastewater treatment in the bidet usage. So one of the central aspects of the bidet usage that demands our environmental consequences of wastewater treatment. Bidet, as we all know, employ water for cleansing, and this wastewater must undergo a complex treatment process before it is safely returned to the environment. That's why some people don't use bidet, because some places in the world doesn't have those water, ladies and gentlemen. So this wastewater treatment involves the use of chemicals, energy-intensive treatment plants, and transportation to convey the treated water to suitable disposal site. Doesn't that mean, when you think about that, where with a lot of processes, it also causes a ripple effects where it causes a lot more to the environment as well. And like what we stated, it's not like we're saying that tissue papers are better. We're just saying that both of these has pros and cons. So when we think about the chemical usage, the treatment of this bidet wastewater necessitates the use of chemicals to purify the water. And these chemicals can have adverse effects on aquatic ecosystem and the overall water quality. Like, for example, chlorine and other disinfection chemicals used in wastewater treatment can generate harmful byproducts when they react with organic matter, potentially posing health risks to aquatic life and humans. Go ahead, Pure Artist. Wait, hold on, with 6 minutes. My bad. Okay, the energy consumption. When you think about the energy consumption, the operation of wastewater treatment plants is energy intensive. Like, they require electricity to power pumps, aerators, and various treatment processes. This energy demand often relies on conventional energy sources such as coal or natural gas, which release greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Yes, we're not saying that the tissue house production center doesn't emit this, but we're just saying that the bidet also uses this. So it doesn't make it better than ours. It doesn't make it better than the tissue papers production center. So as a result, bidet users can indirectly contribute to carbon emission through the energy-intensive treatments of its wastewater. So let me just simplify that we, as the opposition, and me as the second speaker, would like to oppose this motion by stating that by the motion, which is that this House support the use of bidet instead of tissue papers, and I remain to oppose this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the speech. We will now welcome the government week to speak.
Am I audible? Am I audible? All right, thank you. I will start my speech in 3, 2, and 1. You love bidet more than me when you start using one. A quote by Carrie Jackson. I will get into this later on. And now, a warm good evening I wish to Mr. Speaker, timekeeper, judges with overflowing wisdom. Thank you for letting me, as the third speaker or also the whip minister from the government, to propose a wonderful motion on this elegant day. An extremely important motion to be debated, which is this House supports the use of bidet instead of tissue paper. And me personally, as the government, propose this motion with wholehearted for the greater good of our country and for globally. And now, before reinforcing my team's case line, allow me to rebut all these points that doesn't make any sense if you look at it deeply with open eyes, and show how weak is the opposition case line today and why we as the government would win on this case today. Now, moving on with the rebuttals, starting on with the deputy leader of opposition, he has stated about recyclable tissue papers, bamboo tissue papers, and etc. And as I POI'd him earlier, you can't, even though there are a lot of technology rises, you can't split biological waste from a tissue paper. It might be practical if you are 1,000 years ahead on this day, which we clearly aren't. So basically what I'm saying is it is nearly impossible to disintegrate biological waste from tissue paper. So when you use a tissue paper to wipe your, you know what, you can't reuse it again or you can't recycle it again. And that is why bidet is much more simple and much more better for the greater good. And he also stated about energy consumption on bidet, where you have to where you have to what we call that, where we have to uh, take care of the sewage and etc. But I think he clearly doesn't understand about the energy consumption, production of tissue papers needs. And now he can say we are a technological country and etc. But look at the reality. Energy consumption of production of tissue paper it is much more higher compared to energy consumption when you want to treat water. And talking about recycling garbage, recycling requires garbage truck to fetch, and carbon and it will create a much more carbon footprint. But if you want to treat water, you don't need any garbage trucks to carry all the stuff so that they can treat water. In fact, in our daily life, we know that we have to treat water because we are using water in our daily basis. And this is why we are suggesting bidet, because it is much more convenient to treat all the water together than to create a new department, which is to create plantation and you cut all the forest down just so you will make tissue papers and you are using an energy consumption. And now the third speaker from the opposition has also stated that bidet production is environmentally dangerous because it's using mineral metals and etc. Actually, bidet are produced using ceramics and porcelain, which is natural ingredient, and it won't harm our nature. Unlike tissue papers, where you using pulp from the trees, even though you plant it on yourself, so-called POI, please. Yes, sure.
Yeah, just to reinstate your statement when you said that porcelain and ceramic is something that is not environmental harmful, right? Do you understand they are inorganic materials where you can't be replenished, whereas trees can be replenished and can be planted as well? And you're using the wood as pulp is using for tissues and everything. But when I reinstate, I can assure you to say that recycled paper is from normal newspaper into biodegradable tissue papers, not using waste tissue papers into new
now
tissue.
Again, talking about recyclable tissue papers, and I already said why recyclable tissue papers in toilet compared to bidet are simply you can't use that because you can't again recycle tissue papers you already used in a biological waste. And now you are talking about inorganic substance, about porcelain and chips. Yes, they are ceramics that you're using in organic substance, but all these traditional substance which you are using kaolin or silica dioxide, if I'm not mistaken, to use produce ceramics. All this actually it's not dangerous to the environment. And moving on to reinforcing my team's case line, which is clearly better on today's motion, my prime minister stated about economy. Bidet cost in a lower expense than tissue paper. Now, let me argue on this. The environmental, let's try to estimate the actual cost breakdown of toilet paper using some back of napkin maths. It's not too hard to calculate this cost of a bidet versus toilet paper price. The only expense if you're using bidet is only the bidet itself. How much does a bidet cost? It depends on the kind that you are getting. You can spend under 100 ringgit of a bidet attachment. But if you're buying a tissue paper, you have to buy on a yearly basis, monthly basis, daily basis. If you do a simple mathematic opposition, you will know how much it costs for a single person to buy a bidet and use it in their entire life, or to buy a tissue paper every day so that they can wipe their wastes. And now moving on, my deputy prime minister has stated about effect of environment, which I also have explained. You may be wondering whether this tissue paper has an environmental impact if it is recyclable or etc. The answer is yes. Though the tissue paper are made from virgin pulp and recycled waste product, the fact is that the production of the tissue papers from virgin pulps emit 30% from more greenhouse gases when recycled waste paper is used. It is estimated that approximately 140 liters of water are needed to manufacture a single roll of toilet paper. Now, can you argue? Now you're talking about water consumption, right, on bidet. Now, can you clearly see why bidet uses actually lower water percentage compared to a production of a single roll of tissue paper? And now I believe that I showed the opposition and also the judges why our case as the government stands better compared to opposition, as their point are simply weak and irrelevant. And now I believe that the government should win the case as we have the better points. And with that, I rest my case and let's go bidet for the greater good of the global. Thank you.
Thank you for the encouraging speech. We will now hear the speech from the opposition whip.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Greetings, diligent judges, timekeeper, my fellow teammates of the opposition, and as well as to the government team. My name is Sri Bharadin, and I myself am the whip minister from the opposition team. Today, the motion today is the House supports the use of bidet instead of tissue papers, which we strongly oppose, with the stance of us saying that both options has its merits. Before I can further continue with my rebuttals, I would like to state that my responsibility as the whip minister, I'll be supporting my own points and I'll be rebutting the points of the opposition. Well, coming to today's motion, I would like to repeat that this House supports, not prohibits, not disencourages or anything. It supports only to say that, which means that you're proving the point to say that this is better, but tissue paper is not as worse as it. But when entire government speakers were speaking down there, entirely time they were stating that, oh, tissue paper is in the faulty place. They are environmentally disrupting and everything. That's why I come into this place and telling that it has its own merits, both bidet as well as this. To start off, I will support my team's points with my leader stating that it is an individual preference. Yes, it is an individual preference. In westernized countries, people use the usage of tissue papers more than water itself. And in our countries, we use water. This is a cultural preference rather than to say that it's a better option. You are not speaking about the environment here, okay? Environmentally, we have to speak about is the situational problem. When my leader also stated that when the water consumption here, you have to understand, not every places the water is equally clean or equally well treated, okay? This is where the hygienic part also enters in. You could also take it like this. Waters from certain countries are so contaminated that even if you want to wash your hands with it, with a slight cut, you could have an infection. As what the deputy stated just now, you could get salmonella and so on. But how about Staphylococcus aureus? Staphylococcus aureus already resides on your skin. When you wash it with infection, it doubles up the production or the mitigation of the bacteria itself. And the alternative usage, bamboo and biodegradable. When it said biodegradable, the whip minister was keep on repeating it. Biodegradable, it can't be used. And all this recycled paper, you can't use the paper that is been wiped to be recycled. No, understand the point first. We are using recycled newspapers, recycled otherwise papers in order to be processed and then used as biodegradable papers when you remove out the consistencies that it can't be biodegradables. Okay, and the plantations is already ready there. You don't need to chop off trees, as what the Deputy Prime Minister also stated there. A lot of trees had been chopped off, which I'll come later to be rebutting that. A lot of trees had been chopped down and everything. Our ecosystem is being failing, falling, and so on. So much of accusations, but no. But do you think that plantations already stated by the manufacturers, even Premier Company, who is one of the most famous tissue organizers, manufacturers, you can see that they have their own plantations of trees in their farms, which there is where they're going to harvest their sources of fibers, not from general forests. The general forest is where all the tropical understanding is, and that is where the ecosystem has to be hold up to. And importantly, ecosystem, I'll be coming back to that. And even my deputy leader also stated all of these points earlier. The alternative was already stated. Plantations are ready. The analogy of the Deputy Prime Minister, it's, forgive me for my language, it's nonsensical to a point, if you ask me. Okay? Because when the analogy is stated that when if you wash your hands and then you're going to hold your pen in classes and everything, it doesn't have to do with that because we eat using our mouth and we do not do that with our mouth, right? So, simple understanding. And the wastewater treatment has its own consequences as well. Not only say that this tissue paper has its consequences. If you're talking about wastewater treatment itself, tissue paper has, if you're talking about tissue paper having consequences, wastewater treatment has it itself. Okay, and the energy consumption. Note that bidet comes in two different variations, which is high quality, high tech, and low tech. High tech uses the electricity supplies which is used in foreign countries such as US, Russia, Germany, and so on. And even the one that is producing this type of products is coming from Japan itself. On the low tech budget, we need a certain amount of pressure to actually wash our bags. Okay, and that yes.
Talking about wastewater management, do you realize that production of, even though you are using recycled waste paper, approximately 140 liters of water are needed, not forgetting to mention chlorine and other bleaches are used. Even though you are saying no bleaches are used, actually bleaches must be used, even though
yes, I'll be coming down to the point.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, when you stated about bleachers and everything, I think so you did not listen to my leader's point as properly. When she stated about alternatives, one of it is non-tree tissue papers and non-chlorine, which means unbleached tissue papers, which will not be diluted in the water to the wastewater treatments as well. This is where I think so that the WIP minister has not been listening well, and he's been preparing some other points to rebut, but he's not affirming his own points. So down to back to low bidet pressure, the pressure and the water flow needs energy consumption as well. The pressure does not just waterfall down into our toilets, right? And it doesn't use our gravitational force. The potential force is built through electricity. And when it comes to rebuttal, the PM stated in the rise of technology and the use of tissue causes and everything, no, the rise of tissue causes does not actually cause any wastewater treatment. If the wastewater itself, if you're using in bidet, is an issue, then why are you pointing out that tissues is even much more problems? Okay, and when you stated that the definition of porcelain and this is not mineral, actually minerals is actually stated that it is a natural occurring inorganic substance, okay, which is inorganic and it can't be replenished. A tree can be replenished, a mineral can't be replenished. I remind you that. And the analogy itself is wrong. You don't go and wash your hands and you go anywhere. Even bidet users has to wash their hands because there's airborne particles. When you go to defecate, there is also certain amount of bacteria that is flowing around here and there. And when the WIP minister also stated countless amount of time there's no garbage truck use and everything in tissue paper production in bidet. Well, the wastewater treatment in prior and post, there's nearby water. You need water bodies as well. Do you understand? Do you realize that? And the substantial amount is destroyed in order to create such amount of wastewater treatments there. So both sides has its merits. To reinstate again our stance, both options has its merits. And we, as the opposition side to this motion, we oppose that this house supports the use of bidet instead of tissue papers because the government only points out our points and is ignorant towards their own issues as the bidet users. Thank you. I rest my statement. Please.
We will now hear from the. Now we will move on the replying speech, which each team will summarize their main arguments and rebuttals in 4 minutes. The side may start first.
Hello, testing. Testing. Am I audible?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. So I'm starting in 3, 2, 1. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. A wise man once said, it is better to debate a question without settling it than to settle a question without debating it. So once again, assalamu alaikum and greetings, ladies and gentlemen. So I, as the first speaker, hold the responsibility to summarize this debate to show why it should be in our favor of our side of the team. The reality that this point of view is debatable and that there are continuing conversations concerning the environment should be noted. Everyone frequently raises issues with alleged advantages and disadvantages of toilet papers and bidets. People's or users' rights also has to be taken into account when discussing these issues, ladies and gentlemen, as well as other people's concerns and points of view. Ladies and gentlemen, today we in the opposition side have proven that we do in fact care about the environment more than you know. In fact, we care about all of the stakeholders for today, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, the opposition side has clearly stated many kinds of way that would help to improve, that would not endanger the environment, that would not affect the environment at all, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, we also included people's rights to what they want to use, ladies and gentlemen, and also to their own health and hygienic needs. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, as I mentioned before, the opposition side has clearly stated different types of teachers' papers has been given by the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Ministers, even the Whip Minister himself. We mentioned over and over again different types of tissue papers which are not dangerous to the environment. We also mentioned about the production of toilet paper and bidet, both from the beginning until the end. We talk about both, ladies and gentlemen. We do not care about only one. We do not only care about the uses of toilet paper, we care about the uses of the bidet too. We talk about both as well, ladies and gentlemen. And when we talk about both, we have to realize both aren't any better, both aren't that bad, ladies and gentlemen. We also talk about entirely for everyone in this world, ladies and gentlemen. Not everyone has enough water supply. We talk about water supply, ladies and gentlemen, for different places, for everyone himself. And we talk about the plantation as a usage to produce toilet papers and for bidet, how in order to make bidets you use a lot of inorganic matter, where we also mention about trees being easily replenished while inorganic matter is not. We talk about everything, ladies and gentlemen. We in the opposition side have touched about everything. We talked about the uses of the bidet, the uses of toilet paper, and also the environment itself. So therefore, we clearly stand to confidently win this debate with these points, because let me affirm that this House opposes today's motion, which is this House would support bidet toilet paper, because both has its own merits, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, the oppositions have clearly touched everything that is necessary, the cons of toilet paper, the rights and privacies of human beings, and basically presenting each solution there is, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, the opponent side, the government side, they mention over and over the badness of tissue papers. They mention how bad it is, but did they care about the uses of tissue paper? You do not take the uses of tissue papers into account to this. So you're talking about it's bad for them to use it. Well, then what about them? They are not uncomfortable in using it. If they don't want to, then let them stick to what they traditionally use. Ladies and gentlemen, the stakeholder of today isn't just the users of bidet. We're also talking about the users of tissue paper here. People who use them traditionally, the ones that have been using it from the beginning of time, ladies and gentlemen. So basically, we care about them too. We care about everyone there is necessary. And then there are, and then everything goes back to people's preferences, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we aren't just talking about the environment, it also goes back to people's preferences. While bidets can reduce toilet paper consumption, some bidet models use electricity and warm water. This is also dangerous, ladies and gentlemen, which can have environmental impacts in terms of energy use. So with that, both have their own unique pros and cons. The bidet ain't any better than the tissue papers. A bidet requires more stuff, ladies and gentlemen. So before I end my speech, I'd like to reinstate our stand. We believe that both bidet and the tissue papers have their own merits, both have their own pros and cons. And that's why today's motion should be regretted, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, I rest my case.
Thank you. Okay. Next, let's welcome the government side to deliver their replying speech. The time starts once you are ready.
Hello, Marcus. Am I audible?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
So I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. All right, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges and respected opponents, thank you for this opportunity to discuss the matter of utmost importance, which is the choice between bidets and tissue papers in our daily hygienic practices. Today, we stand for you to advocate for a shift towards bidets instead of modern day tissue paper. A choice that not only benefits the individuals, but also nurtures a healthier environment and boosts economic prosperity. While we respect the concern raised by our opponents, we firmly believe that the advantages of bidets far outweigh the arguments in favor of tissue papers. Now let's dive deeper into my arguments. First of all, let me strengthen my case first. How does this increase our economy? By embracing bidet, this fosters economic growth. Bidet production, installation, and maintenance create jobs, stimulating the economy. Furthermore, it reduces the strain on sewage systems. And there are so many people flushing down toilet papers. Yes, you may say that some people to trash that, but some people are uneducated and still flush it down the toilet. All right. Furthermore, they reduce strain on sewer system, and fewer plumbing issues have significant public funds, which can be easily resolved by installing bidets. Now, These can also reduce overall water consumption. When used responsibly, they are highly water efficient. The precise water usage per wash is significantly lower than the than water used in toilet paper production, making them a wise choice in the facing water scarcity. Additionally, bidets definitely also encourages water conservation awareness, which benefits everyone. But then, a better environment. Bidets actively contribute to a greener environment. By reducing the demand for toilet paper, bidets help conserve trees, uh, stop deforestation, and mitigate the effects of climate change. The decrease in paper production also reduces the pollution and promotes a cleaner air and water airways. Even you say recyclable tissue paper. Well, recyclable tissue papers emit greenhouse gases. Even if you recycle them over and over, the cycle continues. They release greenhouse gases. And what about the transportation from the factory to the supermarket? The vehicles emit more greenhouse gases, which increases the carbon footprint. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to our opponents post that toilet paper companies have their own areas to plant trees. We appreciate the dedication to sustainable forestry. However, it's essential to understand that even sustainable tree planting cannot compete with the compete because the growth of a single tree takes more than years. Even if you cut off all of the trees, you still need more trees. So if you cut all of them down, it will take so much time for them to grow. And then what you have to resort to natural forests. And there is a study from the Daily Mail that says drug users needles are dangerous because of disease pathogens. What do I mean by this? Well, drug users wipe their needles on which they use the drugs onto the tissue papers. Accidental pricks or exposure to these contaminated needles, which are transferred from the needles to the tissue papers, can potentially lead to threatening infections, which makes it really concerning. Right now, in conclusion, embracing release of tissue papers is obviously the right choice, and let me reaffirm, this house strongly supports the use of release as it's a superior and eco-friendly alternative, paving the way for a greener and more sustainable future for all of us. And with that, I thank you now.
Thank you to everyone present for making this debate session a success. That concludes today's debate session on the topic, and I would like to thank both teams for their excellent performances today. Now let's give some time for the judges to calculate overall marks and announce the winner of today's debate. So the judges can start when you guys are ready. Okay, thank you.
For the judges, may us please move to quarantine gov R1 to discuss.
Korang dah makan ke?
Belum. Harap pihak penganjur akan hantar makanan ke rumah kami.
Hello, Mr. Moderator. You may stop share the screen for the timer. All right, thank you. So, Amy, you may start. Give the comment first.
Alright. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good afternoon to all of you. So today motion is all about this house about the use of date instead of tissue paper. So my comment is very simple. So first of all, for the theme I can go further after this. What you supposed to do after this is that you kena lebih banyakkan membaca instead of you just split out the words and whatsoever, the elaboration whatsoever. Banyakkan membaca. And the second point is that lebih orang kata hard work on in terms of your hujah, because what I can see today is that all of you have a very lack of knowledge about the motion itself, but some of you have the strong knowledge about the motion itself. So I do hope that you guys can study more about the motion as a whole, right? Other than that, the performance and the technical issues, I give it to Selina and also Miss Anis. Thank you so much.
All right, Mr. Anis, your comment.
Right. Good day, everyone. Good day, boys. My students and the debate team. Right. As for today's motion, right. I'm going to go for the good points first. Congratulations for both teams. For it's like a complete debate lah. You have few eyes now. I could see your eye. Yes. I think this is the second or first one, I guess. Yeah, in this tournament. Where POIs are given. Next would be again, I think the debate was with me yesterday. Again, I would like to point out that it's very important to define the definitions like I said for debate, right? I think yesterday I said the same thing. So today the keywords that is missing is what the debate has offered, which is the word supports, which the government, boys, you fail to apa to define that, and then and that seems like a loophole for you to be attacked on just now. And then definition, right? And what else? I think uh, first thing first, each team should somehow talk about their I mean their points, their own arguments, rather than touching on the opponent's argument. Okay, I mean like in the motion there is always if in the motion like this, like for example the government you are to support the use of bidet, and the opposition is to support the use of I mean, you can see clearly that there are two sides of it. Okay, but the point is, I mean, we need to first look at the part in the motion which is uh which the one that we need to talk more. Okay, that suits on our side. Okay, rather than the other part of the motion. Okay, I mean present our case better for our side first before we touch on the other side. Okay, the other part of the motion. Okay, and really one of the teams today have done that. Okay, and then lastly, okay, I guess today, I mean, one of the team has looked at the motion in like in a different angle. I think because of the definition just now, because the government they failed to define uh, the keyword. That is why it's very important to define the motion. Okay, so that you are clear about what the you need to debate on. Okay, and rather than focusing on just now, the advantages and disadvantages of certain side and all. Okay, so I think that's all. Good luck for the team that will proceed to the final. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you to Mr. Anis and IB Skanda. All right, moving on. Comment. I don't really have much, but because most of the thing have touched by Mr. Anis. But then as seems close to what Mr. Anis said, in this motion, you need to be clear of what are you bringing. And since we are in a debate, so whether or not we are the government or opposition, we need to engage with the teams. We need to engage both teams. So if the government bring this case like this, while the opposition bring this case like this, you need to acknowledge both teams' points, which means when you are supporting the use of PD and the other teams mentioned that there are pros and cons with these two things, you as the government, you need to highlight the advantages of using BD instead of just attacking the cons of using the toilet papers. You need to enhance more in the usage of BD while just rebutting, well, not just rebutting the points from the opponent. Also, in terms of time management, again, you have 7 minutes to deliver your speech. You need to allocate your time properly. How many times for you to rebut and how many times for you to give your points so that you can elaborate your points clearly so that both teams understand what are you trying to say, right? And in terms of POI, in POI, like it's good that you both have the engagement in the POI, but then in the POI, you only have few seconds to give your POI. You cannot take too much time because you will affect your opponent times to deliver the speech and elaborate more. All right. So for today's motion, which is how support the use of PD instead of tissue papers, the motion is rejected. The wins goes to opposition with margin 2.3, and the best speaker goes to Sri Bharathan. Congrats to both teams. You all done a very good job, and good luck for the next round. All right. Before we go to the main room, I would love to ask all of you open up your cameras so that we can have a photography session for a while. Okay, 1, 2. All right, another one. 1, 2, 3. Second. Abang Aimi, can you open your camera? All right, wait. So 1, 2. All right. All right, you may leave for the main room. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you for the government team. You gave a really good fight today. Thank you for the judges as well.
Right. Is there more round for my student?
Again?
There any more rounds like? Tak ada dah kan? Tonight,
Final round dah tak.
final saja lah. And then lepas tu nak tengok ni lah nanti. We'll be waiting for the